Hey guys, so I've been meaning to do a video like this for a while. A lot of you guys have asked about it in the past, and it's just something that I'm really into. I'm very passionate about it. So I wanted to do just a quick overview. It's some Cartomancy 101. And the picture, that has nothing to do with anything. It was just, I was looking for a background of public, like stock image, public domain pictures, and they kept showing me Maneki Neko, and I thought he was really cute, so I put him on there. And that's obviously a picture of me being confident or something. So I'm just gonna cover a few basics about, basically this is a guide to help you to understand the difference between different kinds of decks, and kind of hopefully help you if you're looking to get your first deck, whether it be a tarot, an oracle, or even a Lenormand. I can't pronounce French. It was bothering me, so I looked it up one night, and I still can't pronounce it. I find the French pronunciation systems that are very confusing. But Lenormand, the point is, this presentation is supposed to help you in case you're looking for a deck, you want to decide what kind of deck should I get, what's the difference between them, just give you some basic information, help you to pick one out. I put it in a PowerPoint because if you've ever been on my channel before, you probably know that I get like distracted easily. So I thought, okay, I have this great idea. I'm like, if I put it into slides, I won't get distracted. I'll like kind of stay on course and everything will be organized, so that way when I go to edit the video, it won't be like all over the fucking place, and that'll help me and the viewers, and it'll be good. It looks like really ugly. It looks so like 2008. It's really homely. But you know, it's, and then my friend Batty, she was like, oh no, it's not ugly, it's retro. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's right. So I actually went ahead and I put like the fucking most obnoxious transition slide thing that I could on every slide, just to make it even sexier. So let's see the first one. Oh, okay. Alright, so we have types of cartomancy. Cartomancy is just like using cards to do fortune telling or divination. That's what it means, basically. These are most common. Obviously, tarot is going to be extremely common. Like, people have at least seen that in movies and read about it and stuff. Oracle cards is pretty common, but you kind of have to be more, just if you've used tarot before, you're probably familiar with oracle cards. Lenormand. I don't know a lot about using it. I personally don't like the system, and that's why I haven't really learned how to use it or what it's about. Because, and I'll get to the reason why, because Lenormand is a lot different than, like, say, Oracle card. Even though it's the same basic premise, the style with which you use them is much different. Then, of course, you can also use, and I've seen people do it, you can use a regular deck of playing cards. After all, the tarot was originally, and is still sometimes used, I think it's the Tarot de Marseille, that's another fucking French word. Tarot was originally used as playing cards, so you could play games with them. Tarocchi, I think it was. Was it Italian? Playing cards, like, there's a way to do it. I don't really know. I'd have to look it up on Google, but you can find it pretty easily if you just search, like, divination with playing cards. Playing card divination is what I would probably put in my search if I wanted to do that. I wonder how the leap motion, I'm using the leap motion today, so we'll see how the hand tracking looks. You can use a standard deck of, like, bicycle playing cards. There is a way to do it. It's not, but once again, it's not for me. And I'll explain to you why. But it's a personal preference. So, check out that fucking transition. Okay. So, tarot is probably the most well-known one besides the actual playing cards, but that's different because people know what playing cards are, but they don't use it for tarot. You know what I'm saying? There's 78 cards in the deck. That's pretty much standard. There are some decks that don't have 78 cards. I don't recommend getting those. Like, for instance, there's this tarot. It's called the Dog Tarot. I bought it on a whim. Mistake, because it's more of an art piece than a tarot, but they advertise it as a tarot, which is frankly criminal. I think it's bullshit. Because it's missing like half of the cards. I'd have to go look it up, but does not have 78 cards. A good tarot deck should have 78 cards. Period. Because it's kind of, even though there is flexibility within the system, so much that there have been so many books written about it, there is still some standardization here. That's what makes it tarot. You get what I'm saying? Okay. These are actually, this is the Rider-Waite Tarot in the background here. And I'll explain kind of the difference between the different decks in a bit. So it's broken up into major and minor arcana. Now, for example, you see this one with the 0 with the person who's got the flower. That's the Fool. So the tarot follows the Fool's journey, or at least like the major arcana do. It follows this archetypal character through different stages of their development, spiritual development, life development, etc., etc. Major arcana, like in a reading, are usually treated a little bit different from minor arcana because they're seen as being more like, there's more emphasis placed on the major arcana. Minor arcana, how would I explain it? Minor arcana are usually like, they're either gonna be pip cards or court cards. In tarot, there are pip cards, or like, I think there's pip cards and regular playing cards too. Like, you know how you have like the clubs, the diamonds, the this and that, and they have like the ace of clubs, the 2 of clubs, okay? It's like the same thing, but there's pentacles or coins. Sometimes different decks will like change the name. So there's wands, pentacles, swords, and cups, okay? Those are like the standard ones. So like a pip card would be like the 10 of pentacles up here, 3 of wands. That's like those cards. And then there's the court cards, which is like the queen. You know how you have like the queen of hearts, the queen of, because, and it probably comes from the fact that these were used to play games. I don't know who's the first person who said, now sit the fuck down and I'm gonna tell y'all, bring me that deck of playing cards and I'm gonna I would have been like, you're full of shit. What the fuck are you doing? But whatever it is, they system that. So you have knights, you have queens, kings, pages. It's queen, king, page. Yeah. So you'll have like the page of cups, the queen of pentacles, the king of pentacles. The minor arcana is going to be either these pip cards or these court cards. Major arcana is the fool's journey. So the major arcana is going to be like the magician, the wheel of fortune, the sun. So it's pretty consistent. This is more what I was talking about with this lecture. I should do more of like just like the basics of tarot lecture, but that's not what this one was supposed to be about. So it's pretty much consistent across publishers and authors with minor differences. So for instance, like there's lots of decks where it'll be like I said, like sometimes the pentacles get called coins. Sometimes, like, the wands are called batons or some shit. Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, they change the name a little bit, but there's not too much of a difference. You're still supposed to have the 78 cards. You're still supposed to have the pip, the court. Oh, and they'll change the name of the court cards sometimes, too. It'll be, like, I don't know, the freaking Empress of Pentacles or some shit, but it's still the same card basically. They just change the name. Or like I think of the Thoth deck, they like changed the death card to say something else. Oh my god, this thing, okay, I just realized this. He's holding the wheel of fortune in this ass crack and it's really weird. This is why I need slides, because hold on, I'm gonna blow my nose because honestly, okay, so very nice. So Oracle cards, the card number varies. Oracle cards are not really a set system whatsoever. The only thing that I'd say is, like, they're all Cartomancy tools, but there's not really any defined rules about how you set them up. So for the first thing, the card number varies. It's usually somewhere between 32 to 55, and it's usually like some fucking numerology bullshit where they're like, oh, there's 44 cards, or 55, or 33, because, oh, it's a spiritual, and okay, whatever, who gives a shit. Whereas your tarot should have 78 cards every time, like, whatever deck you get should have 78 cards, or if it doesn't, like, that would be unusual. There is no set number for Oracle. You go anywhere from in between. This range is pretty common, but there are 78 card decks. There are like 60 something card decks. Like, it depends on the author, the deck. No rules on format. It really depends on the author and the publisher. It usually has, it almost always follows some kind of united theme. I can't think of any decks that don't have some kind of broad uniting theme, even if it's just like, this is a numerology deck, like there's something, or there's one called Moonology deck, and that's all about different phases of the moon. So even though like they have structure, but it's determined by the author and not so much traditional commonplace like procedure. So like, okay, let's say like okay, you have a tarot deck. You're gonna have the Wheel of Fortune, you're gonna have the Sun, you're gonna have the Page of Wands, blah blah blah. In an Oracle deck, like, anything goes. Like, you could have one Oracle deck that's like, okay, it's an astrology based deck, so it has like Scorpio, it has one card called Aries, it has one card called like Moon sign, okay? But that's not every deck is gonna have Aries, Moon sign, blah blah blah, because that deck is themed towards astrology. Okay, there could be another deck, like I have a deck that's cats, okay? All the cards are just breeds of cats. So you'd have Devon Rex, Persian, Siamese, American Shorthair, okay? But obviously not every deck that you pick up is going to have the American Shorthair card. You get what I'm saying? Obviously, a big emphasis on imagery in the tarot, but with oracle cards, like, I feel like they're also art pieces in a way. Oracle decks are because you can paint anything. You can make any kind of picture you want because you set the theme, you set the cards, you set the meaning. Like, Wheel of Fortune is, generally speaking, even though there's room for interpretation based on the symbols you see in the picture, like, generally speaking, it has a set meaning, or, like, it's almost like having a suggested cooking time or something, you know what I mean? Whereas an oracle card is, like, say, like, you're making a pie. I don't know. Like, there's a procedure to making a pie. Like, you can make an apple pie, you can make a cherry pie, you can put fucking stuff on the top of it. I don't know. The point is, if you're making a pie, you're making a pie. But an oracle card is, like, one day you could be making brownies. The next day you could be making, like, cookies. You could be making, it depends, the recipe is going to change for every single one. It's the difference between I'm making just pies and I'm making all kinds of different baked goods, if that makes sense. Alright. I don't really know much about Lenormand. I know there's 36 cards in a deck, the same symbols all the time. So it's a very simplified system and there's no suits or divisions. So it's very straightforward. There's not as much interpretation. Like, this is like, okay, so if we said that tarot is making a pie, oracle is making a baked good, Lenormand would be like, we are making grandma's chocolate cake. We are always making grandma's chocolate cake. Like, we might frost it different, but we're following the same recipe. Lenormand is like, you'll have like the dog. Like, and that's all the card says is dog. And it has a specific meaning, dog always means this. And since there's not a lot to the picture, some decks have more picture. I guess you could choose to read them depending on how much imagery your deck has, more image interpretation. But it's really supposed to be like, I think that's the best analogy I can think of, is it's like, this is the recipe for grandma's chocolate cake. We can put strawberries on top of it, but to make the cake, we have to do exactly this. Whereas tarot is like, we're going to make a pie. But we can pick, as long as it turns out a pie, there's room for, we can put whatever fruit, or we can, add this and that. And oracle is like, just, I don't know, we're gonna find a fucking cookie recipe online, and then we're gonna do brownies, and I don't know, does that make sense? I don't really use this because I am a pictorial reader. I don't like when it's very like, okay, here it is, and it always means this. I like to interpret images. That's my strength in reading. So, but it depends on the person. Like, some people probably really like that straightforward, it's always going to be the same, and then they memorize like the nuances of the story that it's supposed to tell, and the interactions between them, and kind of, I read it with like putting a sentence together when you lay them out in Lenormand, like this and then this and this, and the sequence. It's about like the sequence more than the picture, if that makes sense. Okay, so I recommend, and this works for tarot or Lenormand or anything, but I'd say it's especially important with oracle deck, because oracle deck is like so much focus on the art, and you don't have the guiding principles because it's going to change every time. Really want to do a deck flip throughs on YouTube. You really want to look it up and see every card. And if you want to look at the guidebook, maybe they show the guidebook, because the guidebook, if there's no set system, like, okay, tarot, the guidebook is always going to have Wheel of Fortune, and that's going to have a generalized description that's always pretty much the same, and you can embellish, okay, based on what you see. The oracle deck, because there's no set system, the writing is going to be different every time. So if you're someone who does like to use the guidebook, like, the style of writing is going to change from author to author, okay? And some publishers are more aligned with one type of writing or one type of like philosophy than others. For example, Hay House is going to give you kind of like Karen-y, fruity, live, laugh, love kind of stuff, which is fine. But if you're looking for something more like esoteric or like, like spooky or whatever, like, you're not going to want to go to Hay House, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so the art style, I'd say that's a big thing. You want to get a deck that, because if you're using oracle, like, you're probably someone who likes to read pictorially, who likes to interpret the pictures and get meaning from that. So, yeah, I don't pick something that you think is fugly. Like, really find one that you like the way it looks and you like to work with. And sometimes, like, surprisingly, the one that you think is really pretty, some people don't connect to it, which I've kind of had an experience with that a little bit. But like I said before, like, theming, like, every deck is going to have a different theme. There's no, like, when you do, tarot has themes too, but, like, the Hermit's going to be themed. Like, say, I don't know, you have a freaking circus deck. Like, the Hermit would be some kind of freaking goth clown or some shit. I don't know. Be like a fucking depressed Pennywise or something. Who knows? But the point is, like, it's still the Hermit. Whereas if you got like a circus oracle, it might be like Pennywise the fucked up drunk clown, and like you know what I mean? Like, so many to pick from, and there's new ones being published constantly. I can't keep up with like all of the ones that got published. And there's indie decks and there's publisher decks. So like you could join a Kickstarter for a deck or get one off Etsy. They're obviously more expensive. But yeah, so theming and the author's style, because some people like, I mean, obviously it's like people's philosophical connotations are going to get baked into the thing. You don't necessarily have to follow that, but it could affect how the cards read or like how they look. So for example, there's like Hay House, okay? Like Hay House is all like, oh, love and light, ooh woo, and ascended masters and all this shit. So it's probably gonna show up in a lot of their different decks as like Kyle Gray with his accent, sorry. So like his, okay, like there's gonna be a lot of angel decks, you know, from them, because that's kind of their wheelhouse, if that makes sense. And obviously the author style, and like maybe you don't like the way they write their guidebook. You're like, this guidebook is too vague, or this guidebook is too short, like I don't get enough out of it. Like if you're a guidebook person, I mean, some people aren't. I don't particularly pay any attention to the guidebook, but some guidebooks will have like a lot of information, like a meditation you can do and stuff. That's really cool when it has like spell work or like a meditation or some shit that you can do from the guidebook. That's pretty cool, and I can like list some decks that do that. Like the Witchlings Oracle does that, and that's really cool. I have recently seen some oracles that are literally just, you pick a card and like they're all spell work. Like they don't have a picture, they're just like, you know, like a procedure that you follow. Yeah. Picking tarot deck. I don't really know super well the difference between, and I looked it up, and like there's some debate on which one's better, or which one people, it's not so much which one's better, but like people have like which one they like to use. So there's Thoth, Tarot de Marseille, I think, something like that. Or Rider-Waite. Okay, Rider-Waite clone is like something you'll hear all the time. Rider-Waite's the most popular one. That's probably the one that you've seen in movies, TVs, books, etc., etc. It's the one we're looking at in the background. This is classic Rider-Waite. This is freaking ancient, okay? This is like the standardized, the number one standardized, okay? This is like a number 2 pencil of tarot decks. Like, so many decks are going to be a Rider-Waite clone, which means they have the same basic, like, there's differences in the art. Like, the way that they, like, okay, like, when I was talking about the Hermit, okay, like, the Hermit will still look like, generally speaking, still resemble the Rider-Waite Hermit. But, like, he'll be a clown or some shit, you know what I mean? Because it's the fucking drunk-ass clown's tarot, you know what I mean? Like, tarot of the drunk-ass clowns, like, you know, okay? Tarot de Marseille, that's, like, that is really old. That's, like, a very classic medievally kind of, because, like, that's the historical, that came before, like, any of these other ones, okay? So that one, and I don't want to skip too many back and forth between points, but like the pip cards, like they aren't fully illustrated in the Tarot de Marseille, I think. Like in the Rider-Waite, like the 10 of Pentacles has a picture that's associated with it, and there are elements that are, if it's a Rider-Waite based deck, those elements are going to show up in every single version of it. You know what I mean? Tarot de Marseille, I think, or just some decks, even if they're a Rider-Waite clone, they have this too. And I hate when decks do this, but this is my personal opinion because I like to read the pictures. I like to read the symbolism, the colors, the actions in the picture. But if you're someone who really goes more off of the established tradition of knowing the recipe more than into, you know, being like, oh, throw some salt in it, taste it. You're more of a person who's like, I am doing Graham's cake recipe, okay? In that case, you might like a thing with pip cards, which is just, okay, here's 10 of Pentacles, and there's 10, it's like a playing card, there's 10 of them. But there's no additional information, really, in the card. Okay, so it depends on your reading style, alright? So if you're more of a pictorial person like I am, don't go for a deck that has pip cards. Go look it up on Amazon or other bookstore. I mean, Amazon is because it has pictures. Probably the cheapest price you're going to find is going to be on Amazon. Every now and then a local bookstore will have it cheaper by a couple dollars. But, I mean, let's be real. Like, who has a shit ton of money? Like, I know Amazon is not a great company and everything, but, you know, go to YouTube. Search up the name of the deck. Watch a deck flip through, because you're going to find out if it has those pip cards, or if they're illustrated, or if there's any other quirks or things you weren't expecting, okay? Because there is some variety. The artbook, the guidebook, of course, as I said before, You want to be aware of, if you're someone who likes to look at the guidebook, you want to see, do you resonate with the way that they write things? The artwork, obviously, do you like the way it looks? Don't get something you think is fugly. So the quality of the materials also, and this goes for any kind of deck too. It depends by publisher as well. Like Los Scarabeo, I think I said that right. They always put their shit, not always, but like it's common that they'll put their shit in like this fucking crappy ass little box. Okay? And it's like cardboard, or sometimes it is like a strong cardboard nice box. But they don't usually, even those ones, like I have the Shadowscape Tarot. It's a fucking little piece of paper, this guidebook, okay, is like an instruction manual, like, for fucking putting together shit at IKEA. Like, it's just a little fucking wonton wrapper, thin-ass paper, you know, okay, I'm being dramatic, it's not that bad. But, you know, like, just like a little booklet of paper that's, like, stapled together, as opposed to some of these decks will have, like, this beautiful bound book with glossy cover, glossy pages, and it's nice, and it's big, and it has a lot in there. But some of them are, like this Shadowscape Tarot is, like, has, like, 2 fucking sentences, and it's... So you have to consider, do you like the guidebook or not? What kind of guidebook does it have? The quality of the materials, getting back to that, the cards... I see a lot of people will complain about different decks online because, oh, well, the cards were small, or they were too big to shuffle, or they were thin. A lot of people will talk about, oh, it's thin, or they don't like the finish, the glossy, or the, the glitter embezzling on the sides, or what comes off, or etc., etc. Just, like, literally the quality of the materials. Now, if you're someone who likes to showboat when you shuffle them, that might be more of a problem. You know, like when they do this and it goes like, you know how they shuffle it in Vegas, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing this and that, and, okay, that might matter more to you, because your cards are gonna, even from, like, use over time, some of mine have warped in one direction. I don't know how to shuffle good. I'm like very methodical in my shuffling. When I mean I don't know how to shuffle good, I mean that, like, I shuffle very thorough, but it takes me a long time because, like, I, like, am very methodical about it, because I can't do that, like, you know. And also, I don't want to hurt my cards. I'm very particular about making sure they don't bend and get, like, ripped and fucked up. So I never really have a problem with the quality of the material of the card if someone says the card's flimsy, but a lot of people probably do. Make sure in a flip through that it has all the 78 cards, because, like, what the fuck are you paying for if you don't get all the 78 cards? If it's only, like, major arcana, that's an art piece. Like, that's not a deck, okay? That's the best fucking transition. Definitely. I can't really help you with picking a Lenormand deck because I don't own any, because I don't like as I've explained, that doesn't work for my style. So, but there is art differences. I'd say mostly the product quality, because I don't know what other factors there would be. Like, you're always going to have the dog, you're always going to have the key, you're always going to have the ship, or whatever the fuck it is that is in it. Art style does change. It looks like depending on the deck that you get, like, there is some difference in, there'll be additional, like, visual information or whatever, and I don't know how much you can use it. Like, I'm not the right person to ask about picking a Lenormand deck, but I think a lot of these common wisdoms about picking a deck from the other two will carry over into this, such as make sure that you look up a flip through, try to find pictures of it, you know, look at the reviews, that kind of thing. Okay, digital versus paper. Digital comes with built-in tools such as saving your readings and showing what date you did them. Sometimes you can email them to people. Yeah, the archival aspect, and you can write little notes, but they definitely feel different. Okay, like, it definitely feels different to use the digital than to use a paper. So it's kind of a personal, it's like ebook versus paper book. Like, there's, you know, some people have preference of, if you have the digital one, you can carry it around, you can do it whenever. Most digital decks are gonna have a printed version. Usually they adapt a printed version to digital, but I haven't seen many instances where digital starts as a digital and gets adapted to a printed. There's also the cost difference, of course. Like, digital decks are probably usually like around like $5-6 ish, maybe a little bit less, and you can also get digital oracle. So I mean, it depends on what you're getting, but they cost less, but they're not like super good deal. They're not like $2, you know what I mean? Like, some of them might be, but they're gonna be like shitty ass ones. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, they're gonna be fucking like the image, kind of like the aesthetic of this fucking PowerPoint. you want to keep that in mind, okay? A lot of digital, oh, here's a fun tip. A lot of digital decks will give you like a free trial for 7 days, and then if you don't want it anymore, you can delete it. So that's a way to try out a deck before you buy the physical copy, is you can get the digital one and look through it. Because usually there'll be a thing that'll show you all the cards in the deck, like there's a button you can press. So one of the biggest things about digital versus paper is like it's obviously easier to combine decks physically than digitally, and it's really, I really like, and many people like to combine decks when they do a reading. They don't just use one deck, they use multiple decks, because it adds depth and it just gives you more visual or even like interpretive information from the text or whatever. Obviously, if you're using an app, you're in that app. You're using that deck. That's it. Like, you can't line up 2 apps to, you know what I'm saying? Whereas if you had them physically, you could line them up and it wouldn't matter if they were from one deck or the other. I thought I had something else I wanted to say, but I guess not. Okay.